Vanessa's childhood was happy and serene. She was a long-awaited and much-loved child. Her parents spoiled her and tried to spend all their free time with her. This family could rightfully be called ideal because love and harmony reigned in their home. However, happiness was interrupted by a series of terrible events. On that day, the parents of the young princess were going to the anniversary of a colleague and a longtime friend. The celebration was planned to be celebrated in the country house, which was 2 hours away from the city. Vanessa's parents were supposed to stay overnight in the country house, but suddenly Vanessa's mom felt bad. She had a headache. They began to say goodbye to the subjects of the occasion and get ready for the road. It was pitch dark on the highway, and besides, the weather had cleared up on the street. A thunderstorm was brewing, and the rain poured down like a bucket. The thunder and lightning probably knocked out the power, and the lighting on the road was gone. They had to drive almost blindly. Almost at the entrance to the city, the car skidded and it flew into a ditch. Later, the examination would establish that Vanessa's mother died immediately, and her father remained alive for several more hours. If cars were passing by and someone had called an ambulance, he could have lived. Vanessa stayed with an elderly grandfather. She hadn't been told about her parents' death for a long time. When they reported that they were no longer on this earth, she withdrew into herself and did not speak to anyone for almost 2 years. Only the incredible efforts of her grandfather and boundless love for her only granddaughter were able to bring her back to life. Nicholas's life has been bright and eventful since childhood. His father was a first-class pilot, and due to the change of duty station, they often moved with the whole family. Nicholas liked these moves, although his mother was outraged every time and demanded that they settle somewhere for a long time. One day, her dream came true. At that time, his father was serving in Boston, and he remained there to serve, and Nicholas dreamed of New York. He had never been there before, but he really wanted to visit this amazing, bright city. When he graduated from university, he decided to try his luck and left for the city of his dreams. His parents tried to dissuade him, but to no avail, and he did not regret his decision. At first, he worked in a construction company and then organized his own company. The construction business turned out to be very successful and in demand. In a short time, Nicholas was able to build himself a house in one of the prestigious cities of New York in Brooklyn. Nicholas really wanted to take his parents to him, but his mother was categorically against it. She was tired of moving, and she was categorically against going to the city again. Nicholas's parents were pleased with their son's achievements. The only thing that upset them was that Nicholas did not have a family and children, even though he was already 40 years old. His parents' dream came true in the most unexpected way. Before the new year, Nicholas came to visit with a girl and introduced her as his bride. Vanessa was a very nice and pleasant girl, but one thing confused her family. She was 18 years younger than Nicholas. His father tried to talk to him and explain that this was too big an age difference, but Nicholas was stubborn. "Dad, I met the girl of my dreams. It's not my fault that my dream was born when I was already 18. We love each other, and that's the main thing." "What if she's with you for the money? You see how greedy young people are now." "I see, of course. But Vanessa is completely different. I'm sure of her." "Well, see that you don't have to regret it later. She will pull money out of you, and she will get a young admirer herself, and she will support you with your own money." "Dad, come on. I'm not 80 years old. I'm coping quite well myself. Let's close this topic. We came to visit, not to quarrel." "Okay, as you know, my job is to warn." Nicholas remembered this conversation only now, a year and a half after his wedding with Vanessa. The day before, the driver informed Nicholas that Vanessa was probably playing tricks on the side since she constantly goes to the same place. Nicholas couldn't believe it. He loved his wife very much, and he felt that she loved him too. Why would she do that? What might she be missing? Nicholas asked himself these questions. We have intimacy every day. I even get a little tired, but I understand that she has such an age that she wants to all the time. That this is not enough, I do not understand. Nicholas's thoughts were interrupted by the very culprit of these thoughts. Vanessa entered her husband's office and sat down next to him on the arm of the chair. "Nicholas, let's go out tonight. Come on. Where do you want to go?" "I don't know. I want to go to the movies. I haven't been to the movie in a long time. Do you mind?" she said. "I don't mind. Then I'll see where everything is shown and I'll get tickets." Vanessa kissed her husband on the cheek and flew out of the office. Nicholas watched his wife go. Well, it can't be that she has someone on the side, or I don't understand her at all, he thought. In the evening, they went to the cinema, then sat in a restaurant. When they returned home, Vanessa began to kiss Nicholas. After a while, he decided to ask, "Darling, tell me, do I suit you as a man?" Vanessa jumped in surprise. "What kind of stupid question is that? Of course you suit me, 100%. Do you doubt it?" "No, I just wanted to ask. We have an age difference, so maybe you're missing something." "Nicholas, what is this nonsense?" "Yes, you are better than any young man. Stop talking nonsense. I don't need anyone but you." Nicholas really wanted to believe his wife, but there was a worm of doubt inside that gnawed a hole. "Vanessa, can I ask you something?" "Ask me anything." "If you suddenly fall in love with someone else, or just stop loving me, don't lie to me. Just come and tell the truth, okay?" Vanessa was genuinely surprised by such a request. "Nicholas, you scare me with such requests. Did I give you reason to think so?" "No, just promise me you'll do it." "Okay, I promise, even though I don't understand anything." The next day, Nicholas had another conversation with the driver. "Tell me, are you sure that she goes to her lover? Maybe it's a salon of some kind, or a meeting with a friend." "I don't know," the driver answered. "Usually we go to the supermarket. She picks up groceries, and we go to the same address. She won't let me go up to the apartment with her, and she drags all the packages herself. It seemed strange to me, so I told you." Nicholas found this behavior strange. He didn't understand why she didn't take a driver with her if she was seeing just a friend. She probably doesn't want the driver to see who his wife is visiting. Therefore, she had something to hide. Nicholas was upset again. Yesterday he was sure that everything was fine with them, and now he began to doubt again. He asked the driver, "How often does she go to this address?" The driver replied, "Twice a week, maybe 3. Tomorrow she will go again. She's already warned me." "Okay, I'll figure something out. Can I take a video? You'll show her later and ask her where she goes." "No, it definitely doesn't fit. I'll think about what to do." Nicholas thought all day and figured out what to do. He will make up and introduce himself as the new driver instead of Christopher. This is the only way he can check where his Vanessa goes. The next day, when Vanessa left the house, the car with the driver was already in the yard. She, as usual, got into the back seat and told the driver, "Please, let's go to Des Plaines. As usual, take me to the market on the way." "Good morning. Your driver is sick, so I'm his replacement," Nicholas said. "Where exactly in Des Plaines?" Vanessa, without even turning to the driver's voice and continuing to look out the window, corrected, Sorry, at 2257 Pinewood Drive. We'll stop at the supermarket before that, on the way." "All right," the driver obediently said and drove off. Then everything happened as Christopher said. Vanessa went to the market and she was gone for 40 minutes. Then she loaded 3 huge bags of groceries into the trunk. When Nicholas put the bags in the trunk, he glanced at them briefly. Basically, there were dairy products, meat, sausage, cereals, vegetables, and a lot of sweets of different varieties. They drove up to the right house. Vanessa got out of the car. "You don't need to come with me. I'll manage on my own. Wait for me in the car." "I'm sorry, but I have to walk you out. The chief's order." And I said no. You don't need to. If Nicholas asks, tell him you escorted me. "But that's not true. I don't want to be out of work if the boss finds out that I didn't see you off." She was getting angry. "If you keep your mouth shut, he won't know anything," Vanessa said in a confident voice and got out of the car. She took the bags from the trunk and entered the entrance. A couple of minutes later, Nicholas got out of the car and also went to the entrance. He heard the door of the apartment on the 4th floor close. Nicholas thought that he would have to visit the owner of this apartment. Vanessa came out of the entrance about 50 minutes later. She was as calm and unperturbed as before visiting this house. The driver took the hostess home and drove to the same address, getting rid of makeup on the way. When he got to the right floor, Nicholas wondered which apartment to call. He was really scared now that his wife was a traitor, but he could not help but find out the truth. He reached out and pressed the bell of one of the apartments. No one opened the door. He went to another apartment and called. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps, then a grinding noise. The door opened. A man of at least 70 years old was standing on the threshold. "Hello, I'm from an insurance company conducting a survey. Can you spare me a few minutes?" Nicholas was making it up on the fly. Good afternoon. Yes, of course. Walk around." Nicholas went into the apartment. The man pointed to the living room and invited him to go there. Upon entering there, he immediately noticed several framed photographs of his wife. So, everything is correct, but it was just hard to believe that his wife was having an affair with this grandfather. "What did you want to ask?" "We are hosting a deal for single elderly people. We offer to issue a policy at a favorable price. Tell me, do you have relatives? Do you live alone?" "I only have a granddaughter, Vanessa. She doesn't live with me. She's married and lives with her husband. She is a very good girl. I raised her myself and helped her get on her feet. When my son and daughter-in-law died, she was only 6 years old. I couldn't send her to an orphanage. I decided I could handle it myself, and the two of us live together. She recently got married for love, but to a rich man. And do you know what they are? Which ones?" Nicholas became interested. "Well, what important, intelligent?" I immediately told my granddaughter, "Don't tell your husband about me. I don't want to be an obstacle to your happiness. She does not forget me, comes often, helps with food. I know she loves me, and that's good," he continued. Nicholas was surprised. So Vanessa thought he would be against her grandfather, or would he be embarrassed by her background? He already knew that she came from a poor family, and he didn't care. The main thing was that they love each other. He even felt offended that his wife had such an opinion about him. "Have you ever seen her husband? Are you not interested in who your only granddaughter lives with?" "I didn't see him, but Vanessa said he was a very nice person. She loves him, and he loves her, and that's the main thing. When there is love, young man, everything else is nonsense. Believe my experience." "What is your name?" "My name is Richard," the elderly man said. "Nice to meet you." "My name is Nicholas, and I am your granddaughter's husband. Just don't be angry with me. I accidentally found out about your existence. Vanessa didn't say anything. The driver who brings her to you told me." Richard narrowed his eyes and looked at the man with interest. He smiled and said, "I guess he thought my Vanessa was going to the side, right? Well, she's not like that. She's honest and decent. I had no doubt. It was just interesting to understand where she goes so often. I wish you and Vanessa hadn't told me she had a grandfather. Although I am a wealthy person, I am not a greedy oligarch who considers other people to be trash. It is very good. Nice to meet you. Richard, I have a business proposition for you." Nicholas told his grandfather what he had come up with. Richard initially refused, but eventually accepted Nicholas's offer. Vanessa was cooking dinner when her husband called and said that today would be earlier than usual. "Great! I'm so glad when you come earlier. We can talk more. I won't be alone today. We have guests, so set the festive table. This is a very dear and welcome guest." "And who is he?" Vanessa was surprised. Usually they warned about guests in advance, and they did not like unexpected visits. "Honey, I'm driving. I'm not comfortable talking. I'll be there soon. You'll find out. I'll introduce you." Vanessa was an impatient girl, and she really disliked all sorts of intrigues and practical jokes. But there was nothing to do. We had to wait. She quickly set the table, cut a couple more salads, and ran upstairs to change. When Vanessa came downstairs in a beautiful dress, Nicholas was just entering the house. She ran up to her husband and hugged him. "And where are the guests?" she asked impatiently. "The guests are already here, but I do not know how to properly introduce him to you." Nicholas was deliberately stalling. He knew that Vanessa was burning with impatience. It was his little revenge for what he had been through over the past few weeks. This man has done the impossible, and I respect him very much for that. Vanessa listened as if mesmerized, and she was very interested to find out who it was. "Nicholas, can you introduce us already? What are you pulling? What did this man do that was so important?" She was angry. Nicholas took Vanessa by the hand and led her into the yard to the car. What did this man do? Vanessa asked again, and walked over to the car. This man gave me the person most dear to me, you. Vanessa was stunned and looked at her husband. Then she pulled the door handle and saw her grandfather. She looked first at her husband, then at her grandfather, and did not understand anything. Nicholas, explain what's going on. How do you know my grandfather? Grandpa, how did you end up here? Richard got out of the car slowly. Vanessa, don't worry. We'll tell you everything now. Richard, take Vanessa and go into the house, and I'll take your things, Nicholas said. Vanessa didn't understand anything at all. They went into the house. As they sat at the table, Nicholas honestly told the whole story, starting with the driver's suspicions. During the story, Vanessa alternated between being angry, surprised, and laughing. In the end, she was glad she didn't have to hide anymore. Nicholas offered his grandfather to live with them, and he accepted the invitation. In the evening, when Grandpa went to sleep in another room and the couple were left alone, Nicholas asked, Vanessa, I just can't understand one thing. Why didn't you tell me that you have a grandfather? I don't know. At first, Grandpa asked me not to talk about you, and I agreed. Then somehow I couldn't tell him, and it would look strange, so I had to go to him secretly. I could not leave him in any way because he is my own family. I have no one else but him and you. Forgive me, Nicholas. I understand that it was stupid. Thank you so much for bringing Grandpa to us. Don't apologize. It's okay. Don't do it again. Otherwise, this understatement leads to such consequences. I had a bunch of gray hair added while I was figuring out what you were doing. I promise, Vanessa said, gently snuggling up to her husband.